So it looks like McFarlane Toys recently had their winter showcase and featured some DC Multiverse action figures, but are any of these new reveals worth your time and money, soulmates, or maybe not so much? Be sure you stick around until the end, guys, because we're going to talk about what DC characters we'd like to see in DC Multiverse next. The first action figure we're going to look at today, guys, is Steel, and this is a character I did not really expect to see, but I was definitely pleasantly surprised by because I kind of like the way this one looks. Now, I did notice immediately that it doesn't look exactly like his initial appearances. There isn't that blue kind of hue about him, and also there's a few other things that look kind of different about him, like the S insignia on his chest doesn't have that bolted on appearance. It looks more like rough stone, which is an interesting choice, and it makes me wonder if this is actually based on the Death and Return of Superman storyline, or whether it's being picked from some other source, or maybe they're just taking liberties with the design. Because another thing that I do notice here is that the shoulder pads are not exactly like the Death and Return of Superman either. They have a lot more texture and a lot more bulk to them, I think, than that particular design did, because in the Death and Return of Superman, where John Henry Irons appeared, his costume seemed a little bit more streamlined. It didn't have quite so much in the way of ridges. It still had a decent amount of texture, but there wasn't a lot of rough stone looking bits on him. And I guess that's kind of the thing that gets me about this one, is that on some parts of him it looks a little bit more like I'm looking at stone rather than, well, steel. Another thing that looks different is the top of his hammer, because in his initial appearances, once again, you don't really see a lot of texture on top of that, but this isn't really a full view of the action figure, so we're not really seeing the whole thing yet, and I would really prefer to see more of him before I come to any final judgments. Thus far, he seems like he's pretty cool, and he does look a little bit like the source material, although not completely, because obviously the insignia is just a lot different. Still, this is immediately recognizable as Steel, and I'm anxious to see a little bit more of him very soon. The second action figure from the Winter Showcase that we're going to see very soon is, of course, Tim Drake Robin, which is a repaint of the Amazon exclusive Robin that we saw a while ago. And this is a release that we definitely saw coming, because if you paid any attention at all to that Amazon release, it was very obvious that he was being prepped for a repaint. And here we have the real version, I guess you could say, with what I would probably call the correct colors here. Or at least this is the color scheme we all think of when we think of Tim Drake Robin. And, well, it does look like Tim Drake Robin. He comes with his traditional color scheme, he comes with his bow staff, everything looks like it's about right here. I have no idea what the quality of the Amazon exclusive release is like, because I didn't review that action figure, but I have to believe that whatever the quality of that release was, this action figure is probably going to be of comparable quality. So hopefully you liked the Amazon release, and if you didn't, well, this one might not be up your alley. I have seen that some people are concerned about having a strangely shaped cape like we see in the photograph, but I have to believe that this is just a promo photograph and the cape isn't really going to be shaped that way. Never say never, of course, but the cape is such an odd shape in the picture that I find it hard to believe that it would be that way in the package. Not too much else to say about this one, I don't think. This is the repaint that a lot of people I think have been waiting for, and the Tim Drake a lot of people have been waiting for, and this is probably going to be a gold label release, because that's the way it seems to always go for these types of repaints that are based on previously released action figures. It seems like whenever we see a classic comic book release from McFarlane Toys, it always goes to a gold label release, and that's a little strange, I think, but Also, it just seems to be the way they do things, so I fully expect this to be a gold label. The third reveal from the DC Multiverse Winter Showcase was the Michael Keaton Batmobile from the Flash. We are not going to talk about this today because I already talked about it in my Flash video. And of course, if you'd like to learn more about that Batmobile, you can go watch that Flash Wave video. If you're enjoying the content so far, guys, please take the time to give this one a like because these take a little while to put together and I really appreciate it. Before we get back to the rest of the DC Multiverse Winter Showcase, if you want to see more of my videos, please consider subscribing so you don't miss a single video of mine when it comes out. The third action figure we're going to look at from the DC Multiverse Winter Showcase, everyone, is Superman, based on his appearance from the Hush storyline. And this one is another re-release of the Infected Superman body, but this is also based on the previous Hush Superman that was a McFarlane Toy Store exclusive, and that one was notable for coming with some of Poison Ivy's vines as well as a head sculpt that featured the red eyes on him like he was going to use his heat ray vision. This one is a more normal appearance, although a very stern-looking appearance still. I definitely have mixed feelings about this one because the Infected Superman body is not what I would call a perfect body, and one of the things that kind of bothered me about Hush Superman from the McFarlane Toy Store release was that the legs seemed a little bow-legged, and that's true even on the original release of Infected Superman. He kinda has bow legs, and I don't know how good this one's going to look, especially considering that the Hush Batman we saw released was based on the Year 2 Batman body that happens to be very, very tall and has a tendency to tower over Infected Superman. Now, I can't speak to the quality of the Infected Superman body quite yet because I haven't had a chance to review him, even though I own the action figure, but I just don't really feel strongly about the look of him, and I'm not sure this is really a good basis for a strong Superman action figure. I kinda wish they would just come up with an entirely new body for Superman, because it doesn't really feel to me like any of the Supermans we've gotten so far really fit the bill for Superman. And the majority of Superman action figures that we've gotten from DC Multiverse rely quite strongly on this Infected Superman body. So I really fear that this is going to wind up being another ho-hum Superman action figure for me, but there's always the off chance that there's going to be people who really enjoy this one, because there's definitely people who really enjoy the McFarlane Toy Store exclusive Hush Superman. In a nutshell, if you enjoy the Superman that was released on the McFarlane Toy Store website, you're probably going to like this one, and vice versa. If you didn't like that release, then you're probably not going to like this one. And of course, soulmates, we can't forget about the most exciting reveal of the DC Multiverse Winter Showcase, Nightfall Batman, obviously based on his Nightfall appearance, but this is an entirely new sculpt, and it's very notable because I think it has some of the most wonderful sculpting I've ever seen on a DC Multiverse action figure that, well, represents Batman. I have been begging McFarlane Toys to replace the Batman Year 2 body because it was so catastrophically bad and it was showing up on all kinds of Batman toys. And it looks like we finally have our gold standard here, our new one, because look at this body, guys. The costume looks so lived in. It looks like it's all wrinkled in a couple of places where it counts around the legs and the armpits, and then there's some fabric that stretches across his chest. There's a lot of love in this sculpt. You can tell they went all out on it, and when we finally see the reveal for this action figure for the pre-orders, I hope that this one lives up to the hype, because right now this is such an exciting action figure. The head sculpt on him looks perfect. It looks like a good classic Batman. He's got a batarang too, and is anyone really surprised by that? What's Batman without his batarang? No idea what else he comes with, but just looking at this one here, this looks like a classic Batman. This is the Batman that I think everyone wants, and Hopefully now it'll be a great action figure, and they'll make all kinds of Batman action figures based off of this one, and if it turns out to be the best Batman action figure ever, and they keep reusing the body, then I am totally happy, because if you already have perfection, what need is there to really improve on it? I shouldn't say that because there's always room for improvement, but right now I am absolutely in love with this release, and I am tentatively excited, cautiously optimistic about this one, just like Steel. As always, we're gonna have to wait and find out, but right now, yeah guys, this is awesome. Well, now that we've seen all these DC Multiverse Winter Showcase reveals, guys, what DC Multiverse action figures do we want to see next? Well, I think since we're getting a Nightfall Batman, I would really love to see a Nightfall Bane that is a little bit more in line with his comic book appearance. The Bane mega figure we got was pretty cool, but I would like to see something that's just a little bit more toned down and more accurate to his appearance in the comics, and that would be just awesome to have with this new Nightfall Batman, definitely. Well, Soulmates, what do you think of this DC Multiverse Winter Showcase? Are these releases that you want to have for your collection right now? Are you interested maybe half, but not the other half? Or are none of these doing it for you for whatever reason? I don't know, guys. Please be sure you let me know down in the comments. And also let me know what DC Multiverse action figure you want to see next. If you'd like to learn more about the new DC Multiverse Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck Batman releases, you can watch that video here, Soulmates.